Have you ever felt like you heard a whisper? Not from someone out there, but from within. A feeling that's vague, yet unmistakably clear. Something is coming. Sometimes life sends us the smallest signals. A glance, a strange breeze, a number repeating itself on the clock. And sometimes it's a video, like the one you're watching, that appears at exactly the moment you need it most. It's not a coincidence. You're here, right now, because you're approaching a significant crossroads in your own journey. Amid the busyness of life, the swirl of emotions and choices, there is a message waiting for you to hear. A message not meant to decode the future, but to help you realize all the answers have always been within you. Today, we will walk together through the fog of emotion, beyond sweet illusions and toward the true light of awareness. But before we begin, take a deep breath and quietly ask yourself, what am I chasing? And do I have the courage to stop just long enough to truly see? Not long ago, there was a young woman named Lila. Every morning, she rushed through her routine, coffee in hand, her mind full of unresolved thoughts. One day, while waiting at a red light, she noticed a blue butterfly fluttering right in front of her. It circled 3 times, paused briefly on her shoulder, then flew away. Just a butterfly, right? But for Lila, it was the only moment that month when she truly paused, really paused, and noticed the world around her. A few hours later, she received an important phone call, one that completely changed the direction of her career. She still doesn't know if the butterfly had anything to do with it, but deep inside, she knew something had touched her. We often wait for a big sign, something loud and obvious to guide us. A vivid dream, a strange voice. But the universe doesn't always shout. It whispers. The problem is, we've become so used to the noise, phones, deadlines, expectations, and unnamed worries, that we've stopped hearing ourselves, let alone the universe. A small lesson. Signs don't always arrive under a spotlight. Sometimes they come in the stillness between 2 heartbeats. A fleeting feeling you almost miss. And maybe you've already received such a whisper. You just haven't paused long enough to hear it. Real-world examples. Someone once said they met the love of their life at a bus stop, only because they decided not to take a taxi that day. Another stumbled upon their dream job while mindlessly scrolling online, then suddenly clicked on a random link. One person realized it was time to change their life path after reading a quote printed on a coffee cup. The universe doesn't choose loud channels. It chooses the moment you are most still to say the most important things. So if the sign isn't out there but inside, how do you tell the difference between true intuition and illusions shaped by emotion? How do you know you're being guided and not just lost? The answer will come in the next part. Once a friend of mine, his name was Ryan, shared with me a story he never forgot. That year, he was torn between 2 job offers. One was a stable position at a big company with a clear career path. The other was a risky startup, but something about it just felt right. My gut is telling me to go for it, Ryan said, his eyes lighting up. He chose the startup. 3 months later, the company shut down. He didn't receive full pay, and his finances were drained. He asked himself, was that really intuition, or just a desire for adventure dressed up as a gut feeling? When emotions speak, we often mistake them for intuition, especially during certain times of year, like early April, when the planet Neptune casts a strong influence on Pisces. This is a period sensitive to spiritual energy, but also a time when it's easy to confuse true inner guidance with emotionally packaged illusions. True intuition is quiet, calm, grounded. Illusion, on the other hand, tends to pull you in fast. It makes your heart race, out of fear or excitement. Real-world examples. You meet someone and immediately think, they're the one, even though you don't actually know them. You want to invest in a project just because it feels right, even though you haven't gathered enough information. You feel an urgent pressure to act now, because if you don't, you'll miss out on something big. That's not intuition. That's emotion amplified by inner fog. It's like looking at a lake covered in mist. You think you see clearly, but it's just an illusion. A small lesson. Emotions are waves. Intuition is the water beneath. Only when the waves are still can you truly see the bottom of your heart. So, the next time you feel like you must do something immediately, pause. Not to doubt yourself, but to make sure you're listening with a calm heart, not a hurried one. Because sometimes what you believe is intuition is actually the sweet trap of what hasn't been healed. In the next part, we'll explore this together. Do you remember a moment in life when you knew you shouldn't, but your heart whispered, just this once? A friend of mine, Emily, once shared that she got back together with her ex. Not because he had changed, but because, on a rainy afternoon, she felt unbearably lonely. At that moment, I knew he was still the same. But something inside me just couldn't resist, she admitted. It wasn't him who deceived her. She deceived herself. That is Mara, the embodiment of sweet illusion. In Buddhism, Mara is not a demon from the outside. Mara is the temptation that rises within the mind, a soft, persistent urge that leads you to act against your own awareness. Mara doesn't scream, Mara whispers. Mara isn't ugly. Mara wears the disguise of love, of opportunity, of just this once. Real-life examples. You plan to meditate in the morning, but a voice inside says, skipping one day won't hurt. You know a project is flawed, but because you've already put in so much effort, you can't walk away. You feel like someone is definitely your soulmate. Even when your logic is shouting, stay away. A small lesson. Mara doesn't defeat you with fear, but with unhealed desire. When you lack validation, Mara appears with sweet praise. When you fear being alone, Mara shows up with a warm, but false, embrace. When you want to move fast, Mara whispers, don't meditate now, act quickly or you'll miss out. So how do you recognize Mara? Learn to pause whenever emotions rise too quickly. Don't act right away. Don't react instantly. Just one slow breath, and you've already prevented a wrong decision. In life, it's not the big traps that bring us down. It's the small choices made from an uncentered heart. In the next part, we'll peel back the veil. The fog of Neptune, when dreams deceive and karma speaks. And understand why slowing down can sometimes be the biggest step forward. There are moments in life when we think, if I don't act now, I'll lose everything. We rush forward without looking back, without asking, is this truly what I need? Sam, an old friend of mine, once invested all his savings into a project just because someone told him, this opportunity only comes once. A week later, the project collapsed, and what hurt Sam the most wasn't the money he lost. It was the fact that he didn't give himself a single day to think. Sacred pause. In Buddhism, there's a concept called momentary meditation. It doesn't require you to sit cross-legged for hours. Just one deep breath, one heartbeat slowed, one inward glance. That is the sacred pause, a moment to listen to the voice of your heart, not the noise of fear or desire. Everyday examples. When you're about to send a message out of anger, pause. When you feel like giving up because you think you failed, pause. When an opportunity shows up and you're not truly sure, pause. Just 24 hours might save you from 24 months of regret. A small lesson. Strength doesn't come from knowing how to act. It comes from knowing when to act. We live in an age where speed is celebrated. Do more. Move fast. Be decisive. But sometimes, true wisdom lies in taking a step back, listening to your heart, seeing the full picture, and then choosing the path that won't make you lose yourself. Because when you pause, you're not missing out. You're giving yourself a greater opportunity, a chance to see real light through the fog of illusion. In the next part, we'll explore this more deeply. The final test, how one gentle gesture reveals the truth. And you'll see that sometimes the simplest situation becomes the hardest test of all. Have you ever looked at someone and believed they were the one? Have you ever chased something with all your heart, only to realize you were chasing a mirage? It wasn't because you were foolish, but because sometimes our third eye, where intuition and wisdom reside, gets clouded by a mist called desire. When intuition gets deceived, during times of chaotic energy, like when Neptune is in strong alignment with emotionally driven minds like Pisces, you might feel, I'm sure they love me. This opportunity is destiny. If I don't take this now, I'll regret it forever. But the truth is, you're not seeing, you're wanting to see. You're not hearing your heart. You're hearing the echo of fear. A real-life example. Emma, a friend of mine, once fell in love with a man because of the sweet things he said. She believed it was her intuition guiding her. But it was just the voice of an old wound. She wasn't in love with him. She was in love with the attention she had longed for from her absent father. What we call intuition, if left untrained, can often be just a prettier version of an old pain repeating itself. A small lesson. Not every strong emotion is truth. Sometimes it's just the echo of a part of you longing to be healed. That's why meditation, stillness, and inner observation are so important. They help you recognize what's coming from clarity and what's just an emotional reaction. A gentle practice to try. Before making an important decision, ask yourself, am I being guided by clarity or by a longing that's lying to me? If I weren't afraid of loss, would I still choose this? Because once you learn to see clearly through the fog of emotion, you won't just avoid illusions. You'll begin to see the true light within yourself and the path you're meant to walk. And in the next part, we'll go even deeper. Karma and the choice to see clearly, the real power of awakening. Are you ready to open your eyes fully? Do you remember the last time you took a step back instead of reacting immediately? Maybe you were about to send a harsh message, but then you deleted it. Maybe you were about to say yes to something, but instead, you stayed silent and gave yourself one more night to think. That wasn't just a small action. It was a wave, a small ripple that might have traveled farther than you can imagine. Real-life example, one choice that changed a life. There was a young man, hot-tempered and quick to react. One day, he had a heated argument with his mother and was about to leave home for good. But just as he opened the door, he saw the family's old cat trembling from the cold. He stopped, turned back inside, and instead of leaving, he quietly sat beside the cat and gave it a little milk. And in that moment, something inside him softened. The next morning, he sat down and spoke with his mother, for the first time in years. From that day on, his life began to change. A small lesson, a single pause, a kind act, a slower breath. Any of these can be the first spark that triggers a ripple effect leading to deep transformation. In Buddhism, this is known as mind arising from the first intention. The moment you turn a negative thought into a mindful one, you've just changed your future, and possibly the future of those around you. Suggested reflection practice. Next time you're about to react, ask yourself, if this moment could change everything, what would I choose? What ripple am I creating? An old pattern or a new direction? Because every conscious decision you make today is a quiet message you're sending to the universe for tomorrow. And now, as you've begun to listen more deeply, to see more clearly, to feel more fully, let's step together into the final part, where every ripple becomes part of a new current. The ending, a gentle reminder from the universe just for you. How many times have you looked back at a difficult moment in your life and quietly said, "Back then I didn't understand, but now I see it was necessary." Sometimes it's the very moments of confusion, feeling lost, or even what seems unfair, that turn out to be life's turning points. They don't come to punish you. They come to redirect you, to bring you back to where you were always meant to be, a place you may have simply forgotten. Real-life example, when a bigger plan is revealed. A woman once lost her job during the pandemic. She felt confused, angry, disappointed in herself. But during that forced pause, she returned to an old passion, painting. She began sharing her work online. 2 years later, she became a full-time artist, making a living doing what she once only dreamed of. If she hadn't lost her job that day, she would never have found herself. A small lesson. The universe's plan is always greater than your small expectations. And your soul, whether you can hear it or not, always knows the way. You may feel lost in the fog of emotions for a while, but deep inside you, there is a light that never goes out. It guides you step by step. It doesn't ask you to understand everything, just to trust. A gentle practice. Write down the things that once broke your heart, but now you see how they helped you grow. Looking back helps you learn how to trust the present. And now, you've walked through a layered journey, from the first whisper of the universe, through the traps of illusion, into the art of sacred stillness. Now let's step into the final chapter, where there is no more doubt, only gratitude. Let us close this journey with a deep breath, an open heart, and a steady step toward the light. Maybe you came across this video just because of a passing title. Maybe you're not even sure what you're looking for. But if you've stayed until now, perhaps your soul is ready. Ready to listen to the true voice within. Ready to pause, observe, and not rush into action. Ready to choose peace over panic. And to trust the journey instead of trying to control the outcome. If today you're standing at a crossroads, if you feel torn between logic and emotion, if you're just hoping for a sign to know you're on the right path, then this is that sign. Take a slow breath. Close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart. And ask, is this truly what I need? Or just what I crave? You don't have to rush. You don't have to force yourself to be strong. Just listen, truly listen. Because the universe always whispers, and your soul has been hearing it all along. If today's story touched something within you, if there was a moment that made you pause and reflect, leave a comment with just 4 words. I've been listening, because sometimes a single sentence from you could be the awakening signal for someone else who needs it. You can also share a moment when you chose to pause instead of react, chose love instead of fear, chose to wait instead of rushing in. And if this video felt like a timely gift, click subscribe, not just to follow this channel, but to send a signal to the universe that says, I am ready to awaken. Thank you for staying until the end. We don't walk alone, and this journey is only just beginning.